morning, everybody. Welcome to today's 1 million by 1 million online rendezvous. We're live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. This is Sramana Mitra, founder and CEO of 1 million by 1 million, the first and only global virtual accelerator for technology startups. Our mission is to help 1 million entrepreneurs reach $1 million and beyond in annual revenue. And no matter how you are approaching entrepreneurship, we are equipped to work with early stage entrepreneurs. And that ranges all the way from people who are just starting to think about entrepreneurship and you still have your job, you don't plan to quit your job anytime soon, you just want to start planning and start learning and getting your ducks lined up. You're most welcome to join 1 million by 1 million and follow our methodology. If you are already on your way and have an MVP perhaps, or maybe a product, maybe a little bit of revenue and trying to figure out how to make that a repeatable revenue generation process, all of those are perfectly acceptable scenarios in which you can use 1 million by 1 million. Note, we are the only accelerator who actually has no problem with your doing your startup while you still keep your full-time job. We are big believers in bootstrapping with a paycheck. So I know this is a very big segment right now of entrepreneurs or would-be entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs who are sitting inside companies doing a day job, but also dreaming about becoming an entrepreneur. And this is a category of aspiring entrepreneurs that we are perfectly happy to support. And we will need a lot of entrepreneurship after COVID is past to rebuild the economies, the global economies. We're going to need a lot of entrepreneurship. We're going to need it all over the world. So if you have even a little bit of entrepreneurial energy, a little bit of entrepreneurial aspiration, and you want to start exploring, you want to start learning the methodology of how to put one foot before the other, by all means, join us and we will be thrilled to help you along in your learning process. So I'm going to do, as usual, Q&A in today's session. Those of you who want me to look at your businesses, your projects, your ideas, etc., specifically, please use the 1M by 1M free public roundtables for mentoring. To find those and the schedule and the registration links, please go to 1mby1m.com and then go to free public roundtables on the top navigation bar. You will find the full schedule and all registration links there. All right, so let us start with our first question, which is, should I quit my job prior to raising a round of funding, or prior to trying to raise a round of funding? Well, the issue is, investors usually do not fund companies that are led by part-time founders. So you are going to, before you go to raise funding, you're going to need to signal to the investors that you're going to do this full-time. But all I can say is that there's a lot of stuff that you can get done in a bootstrapping with a paycheck mode that I strongly recommend you do put in place before you quit your job. That includes validation. In some cases, you can get already to paying customers, revenues. We've had cases where we've taken companies all the way to break even. The other very interesting way we are seeing bootstrapping using a paycheck work is entrepreneurs bootstrap to a certain degree of validation and then apply to one of the premier funding accelerators. So Y Combinator, Techstars, they will offer you seed funding. And That, however, getting into those companies are very difficult. They have a very small acceptance rate. But if you go in, let's say you bootstrap with a paycheck and you work with us in a non-equity model with 1 million by 1 million and maybe spend 2 years, 3 years really kind of working out how you're going to play this business. And we have all the knowledge to do that, help you do that. And then go to a Y Combinator, you can raise money. You can often raise lots of money. Y Combinator is very good at raising money, big money, $10 million and so on and so forth. So that's a case study we're seeing also. People are using us to get ready and then going and applying elsewhere. That's fine too. Now I want to give you a few pointers, few pieces of information that you should keep in mind. And all of this, by the way, you can find in the investor introduction section of the 1 million by 1 million site. Remember, investors generally only consider deals coming in through their trusted networks. So if you're looking for introductions to investors, again, you can join 1 million by 1 million premium. We can coach you through the process and make the necessary introductions when you're ready. Remember, investors are looking to multiply the money that they put into startups. But a bit more sophisticated way to think about it is to ask the question, multiply by how much? 2x, 3x, 5x, 10x, 20x? This question determines the strategies of what they're looking to do. You can look for unicorns, build companies with billion-dollar market caps, go from 0 to $100 million in revenue in 5 to 7 years. This is the definition of a unicorn, and that kind of revenue trajectory and growth gets you the billion-dollar valuation that investors are looking for. That's one category. A second category of investors look for early exits. They sell capital-efficient startups and make a lower multiple, but nonetheless have a successful outcome. Still multiplying money, but not as much, perhaps. Not 10x, 20x, but maybe 2x, 3x, 5x. You may want to also read up on best of bootstrapping to an exit. That's an article on our blog in this context. We do support bootstrapping to an exit as well, and that is a whole discipline in its own right. I strongly suggest you read the 1M by 1M Seed Capital series of interviews. To get to that, again, go back to the blog, go to 1mby1m.com, go to the blog. On the left navigation panel, you will find Seed Capital. That series of interviews, in that series, we have profiled investor after investor to understand their investment thesis. Every single investor has an investment thesis. And just like you look for product market fit, you also need to look for investor entrepreneur fit. A seed investor looking for a unicorn won't invest in a capital efficient startup that is better suited to a $30 million strategic exit and vice versa. By the way, this series is also available as videos on YouTube, 1M by 1M Roundtables. The YouTube channel is called 1M by 1M Roundtables. Each roundtable typically has an investor guest. It is also available as podcasts on all major platforms. You can look at Apple Podcasts, the 1M by 1M Entrepreneurship Podcast is how it's called. If you haven't raised money before, understanding the fundamentals of fundraising would be critical for you to navigate this extremely complex process. Before you go up in front of investors, you should be able to answer some questions satisfactorily. In terms of micro-level evaluation, they're trying to answer the following questions, and this list of questions you will find in the 1M by 1M self-assessment, which is also on our website. If you go to 1mby1m.com and you go to self-assessment on the top navigation bar, You will find the questions at the high level. The questions relate to validation, positioning, monetization, total available market, bootstrapping, financing, customer acquisition, team building, and differentiation. That typically is covered in positioning, actually. So you can go into that section of our website and use that questionnaire, that strategic planning questionnaire, that will help you address. If you get stuck and you need methodology training, you can always do 1M by 1M Basic, which is our curriculum-only program. It's our, very extensive digital curriculum that will pretty much give you everything that you need to do this work of preparing for gathering your information, gathering your strategy, building your strategy, and so forth. Now, if you want to practice your pitch and get feedback, the best thing would be to come talk to me at a free public roundtable. I talked about it earlier. Go to the website, go to free public roundtables, register. Again, at 1M by 1M, we support bootstrapping with a paycheck. Unconditionally support bootstrapping with a paycheck. It's a very unique differentiation in this accelerator versus any others. And if you go to do a search on bootstrapping course, bootstrapping using a paycheck, and you will get to a video talk on this topic, as well as tons of case studies. Read up case studies. Everything we do in our program, everything we teach, all methodology that we teach is with case studies. It's a very big methodology of teaching for us, is using these case studies. We have hundreds of case studies, 100 plus unicorn. There are hundreds of bootstrap case studies, hundreds of venture funded case studies, hundreds of case studies from each domain that we work in. The technology trends today span a variety of different industry sectors: fintech, cloud computing, big data, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, e-commerce, online healthcare, digital IT, healthcare IT, digital health, online education. Each of these have numerous case studies, and you will find all of these case studies actually on our blog. And if you use the curriculum, the 1M by 1M Basic, it's also available in premium. The case studies are very well organized by theme, by topics. And if you're trying to learn a particular topic, it's very well organized for you to learn each of those topics with video lectures, video interviews, and case studies. So you can really master all this, very effectively, very deeply, by studying the material that we have brought together. And you can do that. You can start that journey while you still have a job. So I come back to, you don't need to quit your job to get started on entrepreneurship. Eventually, to scale a company, you would want to do it full time. And that's the whole point. You want autonomy, you want to build your own business, and you want to, put your heart and soul into something. But bills need to be paid. Early on in an entrepreneur's journey, there's not much money coming in, but there's still bills that need to be paid. There are expenses. So how do you buy yourself runway? One of the best bootstrapping methodologies that we have discovered through the work that we've been doing for the last decade and more is bootstrapping with a paycheck. Okay. Our next question is, what stage do most investors want companies to be at before they invest? Now, investors come in various forms. So you need to understand the segmentation of early stage financing. The absolute beginning of an entrepreneur's journey is usually either self-financing and bootstrapping, and that could be bootstrapping with a paycheck, it could be bootstrapping using services, it could be bootstrapping by piggybacking. There are many ways of bootstrapping. The alternative, or maybe a supplement to that, often is friends and family. So people who know you and they're not necessarily investing in your business. They're investing in you because they know that you're a high caliber person, they trust you, and they're willing to invest in you. That is a friends and family round. You don't really have much validation at this point other than the fact that you are a good person and you're a capable person, and that's what people are investing in. That's a friends and family round. The next, and this is now we're coming into an institutional round. And by the way, the institutional investment world comes in two flavors. For a long time, we call it pre-seed investment, but for a long time, pre-seed investment was done by individual angels and angel groups. Today, this market has evolved. A lot of angels have brought together micro VC funds. These are small funds, 10 million, 15 million, 25 million funds. And there are literally hundreds of these micro VC funds out there right now. They operate in different segments, and I'm going to talk you through all the different segments and their requirements. So pre-seed is a stage where people define pre-seed differently. Some investors define pre-seed as nothing, basically pure concept stage. Very few investors invest in pure concept stage. And to the extent that you can raise concept stage financing, people are looking for track record. So you must be not a first-time entrepreneur. You must be a serial entrepreneur with track record to raise money on a concept usually, or be such a special team with such spectacular domain knowledge that is so rare that people are willing to invest in a team. All those are possibilities in pre-seed. Seed is a more common investment stage. Pre-seed is very rare. Seed is a more common investment stage. And this is where people are definitely looking to see at least an MVP and significant amount of customer validation. You may or may not have paying customers. A lot of seed investors also look for paying customers. Some look for certain levels of paying customers. If you're doing a SaaS business, which is on an MRR, ARR model, some are looking for $15,000 MRR, some are looking for $40,000 MRR, some even are looking for $80,000 MRR, which is getting close to $1 million ARR. So things vary, people's preferences vary, and this is where investor entrepreneur fit comes in. What is the investor's definition of seed? What is the investor's definition of pre-seed? What stage do they really want to invest in? And this is where, if you spend some time in the Seed Capital interview series that we've been publishing as podcasts, as well as video interviews and as text interviews on our blog, you will have a chance to get to know these investors and understand how they think about investment. Then there's a category that has emerged as post-seed. So you're not quite ready to raise Series A, and you're beyond seed. You've done quite a bit of seed validation, seed level validation. There's a post-seed category. And then there is a pre-Series A category. So post-seed and pre-Series A, people define in their own ways. Both of those are reasonable, small rounds, still very small rounds of financing. Then comes the two versions of Series A, the small Series A, which is in the $1 to $3 million round range. And then there's a large Series A, which these days goes all the way up to, starts perhaps at 5 million, goes all the way up to 10 million even. So that's how, the stage question gets answered. But as a thumb rule, the further along you can get in that spectrum of, building more validation, building more traction, building revenues, building paying customers, building lots of deep engagement and usage with the product, that's where really the decision making gets more and more in your favor. The negotiation tips more and more in your favor. So the probability of fundraising increases as you show more validation, more traction. So if you can bootstrap your way to, $40,000 MRR or $80,000 MRR, you are in a very good place to raise money. So that's how I would say you should think about the stage question. The next question I'm going to do is, why do large companies like to buy bootstrap startups? This is a very interesting question. And it's actually quite a bit of non-obvious stuff that you will find as you think through this issue. So by the way, as reference, I have a large body of writing on bootstrapping to exit. So if this is a topic you want to explore, you can go look at the Bootstrapping to Exit series of articles on the blog, and you will learn a lot, including case studies. So, but let's look at the factors that play into a relatively larger company acquiring a smaller player, especially a bootstrapped player. Number one reason actually is financial. Companies acquire for different reasons. Some acquire to bring in substantial chunks of high growth revenue. Some acquire to bring in adjacent products that their sales force and channel can upsell to existing customers. Some acquire to diversify out of a one-trick pony situation. Sellers need to consider the buyer's psychology and accordingly steer the conversation. Valuations vary significantly depending on motivations. Revenue-driven acquisitions tend to be easier to put a price on. Valuations tend to be a multiple of the revenue, regardless of how much money the company has raised. Strategic acquisitions tend to be more complex to value. They resemble the thought process of a VC. If I acquire your company, how much additional TAM does that open up for me? Can I leverage my sales force and channel and push your products through them at a relatively high velocity pace? How much additional engineering is needed before we go to revenue, and what does that cost? Have you raised too much money, making the valuation expectations irrational? And this is where, if you have a bootstrapped company that fits strategically in the product roadmap of another larger company, and you have built your company with very little capital, but you have product market fit, you have a nice product that the market is looking for, and instead of raising a lot more money and building a channel and so on and so forth, you want to leverage somebody else's channel and just get an exit. In this scenario, a bootstrap company is more attractive for an acquirer than a heavily venture funded company, because the valuation expectations are lower. The number of stakeholders, the number of shareholders are lower usually. One or two founders and maybe a small equity partner are going to split all the proceeds and a little bit for the employees. That with a $50 million exit, everybody can make good money. Whereas if you have already raised $50 million, then a $50 million exit is not going to move the needle. You need, you need a completely different level of exit price for that equation to make sense. So finance is a very big issue. The second reason is technology. Today, products are built on technology stacks that are often incompatible. This makes merger integrations challenging. This is particularly true for SaaS companies acquiring another SaaS company that is on a different technology stack. What is the cost of rationalizing the two stacks post-acquisition? Is there enough ROI post-rationalization to go ahead with the transaction? This also points to the fact that if you build on a compatible stack with an eye towards a bootstrapping to exit situation, your chances of finding a successful exit would be higher. Salesforce.com's platform as a service strategy is a very good example. Numerous startups built on this stack, making it easy for Salesforce to acquire and integrate. And they have acquired and integrated a lot of companies. As you design your startup's technology strategy, please keep in mind that the technology choices you make will determine whether or not you can find a satisfactory bootstrapping to exit outcome. So look for a strategic fit. And if that company has a platform that you can, leapfrog on top of, and especially if that company has a marketplace that you can sell through, similar to Salesforce.com's App Exchange, it gives you great attractiveness. It makes you very, very attractive for that company to acquire you once you get product market fit. And then the last one is culture matters tremendously. Culture. Whether an acquisition can be integrated successfully or not is often the factor of a compatible culture. If you're working with a B2E bootstrapping to exit objective, study the culture of potential acquirers and make sure you don't get tripped with vastly incompatible dynamics. Those, I would say, are the key points that I want to make to steer you towards, the key elements of bootstrapping to exit. I think I'm going to go to the last question, which is always, how can you get feedback from me on on your venture, on your particular project? Not generic questions, but specific to your project, specific customer acquisition strategy questions, specific financing questions, specific positioning questions. All that would be tackled at our free public roundtables. So those are Thursday mornings at 8 a.m. Pacific times. Please translate the time to your time zone. But all the details and registration links are on our website, 1mby1m.com. Free public roundtables is the page where you will find everything. We have 2 more sessions in October, this Thursday, October 22nd, and next Thursday, October 29th. And then we have 3 more sessions in November before Thanksgiving. I also point you to the self-assessment page. Self-assessment is a series of strategic planning questions. They are also due diligence questions for entrepreneurs. If you're looking for investment, this is your due diligence questionnaire set. From a business strategy point of view, these are the questions investors would ask you. If you're looking for investment, go to the investor introductions page on our website, and we describe very much in detail how to prepare for investor introductions. We have a very, very solid community of hundreds of investors who work with us. And if you're looking for methodology guidance, you can start with 1by1m Basic, which is our curriculum-only program. The digital curriculum is accessible from anywhere in the world. You're very welcome to get started. And remember, it's perfectly okay for you to get started with bootstrapping with a paycheck. Keep your day job and start working on your startup. That's perfectly fine. If you're doing a services company, go ahead with bootstrapping with services, bootstrapping a product with services. We have methodology for that as well. So all of those, we have a wide range of choices of how you want to play your entrepreneurial journey. And we will work with you shoulder to shoulder if you decide that you want to join our program and work with us and make us your partner in that journey. Good luck, everybody. The pandemic is not in a good situation. So I hope you will all try to stay safe and protect yourselves, protect your friends, families, and protect your businesses. Those of you who are already doing startups in the middle of this devastating pandemic, your primary goal is survival, and there's nothing to be embarrassed about in that strategy, in that goal, because humanity is going through a once in a lifetime, actually once in a century situation. So there are challenges. This is a very tough situation, and we have tons of empathy for you entrepreneurs who are navigating this extremely challenging time. All right, folks, I will see you at the roundtable on Thursday, hopefully. Bye bye.